Kia ora, my name is Tanya and I grew up in a beautiful part of the West Country, UK. I had a wonderful childhood, but it did come with its difficulties. Cultural Conversations is my current project. It's an arts-based hub for former refugees and migrants to share and celebrate their work. I remember once hearing someone say, the trouble is, with newcomers, they keep themselves to themselves and they don't join in with activities. And I thought, well, why does it have to be that way round? For me, innovation needs to be about preservation.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Takitimu toku waka, ko Ngāti Kahanunu toku iwi, ko Ngāti Ruapane toku hapu, ko Te Wairoa hupupu hungingi mātangiro toku awa, ko Lisa Lawrence Saho. Kia ora, my name is Lisa. I whakapapa to Wairoa, Waikare Moana, but I have the privilege of living here in Whakatū in Te Tauihu. I manage the Motueka Whānau Service Centre and I do a number of community roles that are about bringing people from all walks of life together so that they can all become more enriched in how they relate to one another. What I'm interested in most is having a community that feels like people belong and that they are welcomed irrespective of the journey that they've already had. I've met Tanya across the playground. We've locked eyes before and I really liked her energy and never had the courage to actually chat. So I'm looking forward to the courageous conversations because we can sit and I can ask her all those questions that had me wondering all those years ago. Kia ora.
Lisa.
Would you like a cup of tea?
I love a cup of tea.
Brilliant.
What is it?
Peppermint.
Lovely.
Nicely brewed. So Tanya, no mai haramai ki tēnei hui ki tēnei kōrero. I'm so pleased to have this time with you. It's been a long time coming. So you're a New Zealander by choice, not a New Zealander by birth. So where did life begin for you? Where was home?
So life began in a place called Exeter in Devon.
Okay.
It's a beautiful part of the world. So my mother was Indian, father English. And my father hadn't finished university, so he continued another year. And I went with my mother up to Wiltshire, which was 2 hours away, and lived with my grandparents for those early years. So my grandparents were a huge part of my upbringing.
Do you remember much of that early time with your grandparents?
Yes, I do. I mean, I remembered I was given a lot of love and they adored me, they spoilt me. I was their only grandchild. My grandfather was a policeman. He was the local bobby. And I mean, in those days, you know, people actually really liked him. He was friendly. He was all about community. But I do remember some very strange words that they would use that I felt really uncomfortable about.
What do you remember? What do you mean?
Talking about people of colour, if somebody moved into the street, and it wouldn't be in a positive way. And so if I questioned it, they would say, "Oh, no, you're one of us. You know, we're not talking about you. You know, they need to go home."
Wow, how did that feel, knowing there was that question in your mind about who they meant?
Yeah, well, it felt really strange because you know, this area was mainly a white area, but I knew I was different, and I knew my mum was different. And when I would see my mum's side of the family, who lived in like the larger city, which was Birmingham or London, I would feel a sense of connection in another way to the Indian family, but at the same time, I was thinking, you know, I'm different. I'm really different growing up in this white area.
So you felt the difference of skin tone?
Absolutely, yes.
Wow. And did other people around you reflect that? Did they regard you? Did you feel regarded differently?
Yeah, I guess, you call them friends, but when I have friends at school and say we would fight and we would fall out, and how some children may just call you names, it was always a name associated with my colour.
Oh, matey.
So that would hurt. That whole thing, sticks and stones, it actually would really hurt, rather than say, oh, you silly idiot or fool, whatever, it was always, a name with reference to my colour. And because I felt that I was never taught to speak out as a child. There's a lot more with the Black Lives Matters movement about speaking out, and if you hear something, I suppose as a child and out of respect, I thought it was rude to argue.
Oh, right. Even though you were the only child?
Yeah, I didn't feel strong enough to argue with them.
Yeah. Wow.
Especially when you're living in their house and they're controlling everything you do. And yeah, I do wonder if that is a common thing for people, that they're in a position.
Well, I guess that's the suppression of people of colour. Even if it's not said you will not speak, there's enough silent rules that ensure speaking out is very much frowned upon, and the reception will be frosty, or the disapproving stare of, why are you talking? It's not your turn. It's funny, there's those controls, societal controls about who can do what when they can do it. You had that from a really young time in your family life with your grandparents.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then as I got older, there were a lot of political discussions, and there was one particular politician called Enoch Powell who I would remember hearing lots about that they supported. And as a child, this is all I knew. But he was very divisive, and he gave a speech. He called it the Birmingham speech, but it was renamed the Rivers of Blood speech, and it was all about. He didn't want immigration.
I'm guessing it's anti-people of colour immigrating over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And, it's interesting how you use terms such as migrants, but then you would use expats, or expats would generally refer to white people.
Yes.
But you would use migrants, maybe more of people with colour, which was interesting.
And I guess that also can speak to perhaps a level of entitlement for the colonisers, that when they move to countries that aren't where they originate from, there's an entitlement that comes with the words expat, as opposed to migration. Wow, that would have been a tough road for you.
It was tough because I didn't see people of colour around me, apart from my mum, and I was an only child. So I used to thrive, and I used to love it when I would see my cousins. But they had come to England as refugees from Uganda, and so they were setting up their own lives. They were in refugee camps, and they were starting small. But I just remember love. I remember they had very little, but it was where I felt more at home.
Amazing. And so your mum was a music teacher, is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
So I actually went to the same college that she had studied at.
Right.
So I was playing violin, I was playing in orchestras, but then there came a point where that didn't feel right. I just didn't. I was the only brown face again in the orchestra, and I felt uncomfortable with the silences, with the music. There was no appreciation in between movements. If you started to clap in between, that wasn't part of what you do. And I started to get more involved with world music, and where you might shout out in the middle of an Indian concert because you love what the musician does, and I started to get really attracted to different styles of music from around the world.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought about music being, for lack of a better word, colonised. So the classical, traditional understanding of music is as you say, you don't express appreciation halfway through a rehearsal or in the midst of a performance. Everything is staged in terms of what happens when, and it's, I guess, the word restricted in terms of expression, personal expression.
I just thought, I'm going to change my whole degree, which they let me do, and then I continued studying Indian music and non-Western music, and that was the start for me of feeling more connected with who I was as a person. I suppose I'd never really identified with a tribe or a state or a nation. You know, I've always seen myself as a global citizen in a way, but music has been my home. But to find that music really deep within was a really important time for me.
That's a massive change, though, in a degree focus from the classical into the world focus of music.
Yes, so I remember going to India when I was 18.
Yeah.
And that was quite interesting too, because I went to South India where people there are a lot darker, and they did not believe that I had any connection to India whatsoever. The people came, like there was about 50 people walking down the road, touching my skin and everything, and saying that this American person had come. They all thought I was American from what they'd seen. And I remember thinking, where do I belong? Amazing. I've got people in England saying, go home. I come here and they think I'm American. And, you know, I remember thinking at 18 that, where do I belong?
I can understand why, when that's the reception you get when you open each of the doors and step through, right from when you were saying at primary school, little school, where colour was used as a way to differentiate and put you down all the way through. Māori often have a connection to whenua. We feel whenua, and whenua feels and feeds us. Did you ever get a sense when you were in India of the land and responding to the land itself, or the ocean?
Actually, the trees being a really important thing for me. I remember arriving to the town and smelling the sandalwood trees. And actually most days I now wear sandalwood oil because that was just incredible, the smell of arriving in that city.
Amazing. Yeah. Sometimes I think our bones know where they've been before. Even if you weren't born there, your bones pick up the vibrations of where parts of them have been in the past. That's so lovely. So after you'd finished your degree and you'd had some contact with your family in India, and you had your quite, sounds like, enclosed upbringing with your grandparents, what happened after you graduated? Where did you decide to go in the world?
My partner's family emigrated here to New Zealand, and we had a son, and we thought, actually, let's come and try New Zealand for 18 months because we felt, actually, this is a really good place to bring up a young child. So we came here, and actually I have never felt at home anywhere else like I do here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And actually my grandparents were furious that we decided to stay here. And from that side of the family, even my dad's side of the family, they said it was very deceitful of me to move to New Zealand.
You're going to have to fill in some blanks for me around deceitful, meaning...
leaving the family in England to come over here. So they never really accepted it at all.
And that's quite interesting. What it reminds me of is that often the people who feel that a country is already their own, whether they were born there or they're part of the largest majority of that group, they often feel a great sense of entitlement to tell other people that live there, that are a minority, what they should and shouldn't be doing and how much they're allowed to be doing the things that they do. It's quite fascinating, that assumed sense of right to tell others where their freedoms begin and end.
Yes.
And we're seeing that, as you say, with Black Lives Matter, with many of the marches and the protests around inequality, about the assumption that
we assume everybody's equal, particularly the largest groups assume everybody's equal, but no one's allowed to quite really step up as much until they have permission to. You know, like the land marches back in the mid-70s were frowned upon. They were ridiculous. It was a notion that the majority did not want to have happening. It wasn't proper. You know, and we look back now and say that was a remarkable achievement of walking for a month from the top of the North Island down to Parliament to deliver their message around land back to tangata whenua. And so it's about almost stepping beyond what's acceptable to the majority. And you've had to do that. Oh, that must have been gutting for you to have that kind of feedback from them around your family decision. As an adult, you can't even live where you want to live without there being some disapproval thrown at you. That would be gutting.
Yeah, it was, you know, it felt, there was a lot of guilt there about moving here. But then I thought to myself, this was a bit later then, in 2010, I actually want to commit to real action and bring service to the community.
So now you're in New Zealand, you've got a beautiful little one, you've got your family here with you, and you decided to what?
So decided to bring music to the community. That was initially what I did, because that was, you know, my training, my gift, bring people together through music. And I guess that started with working in schools and then with a samba band. We managed to, we must have had an army of 90 drummers, dancers, stilt walkers, brass and acrobatic children for the Rugby World Cup.
Wow.
So that was kind of the start when it all was happening. And then more recently, so 3 years ago, I decided to help people find their voices through singing. And that's when I set up the Voice Collective. So that was a pop-up bass choir where, because a lot of people have been traumatised through being told they can't sing or they can't, they feel that they can't speak out. So I thought, well, let's do it through singing. And I'd pick a different song each month, and people, they didn't have to commit. They didn't have to have any audition or any previous experience. So they'd come along and sing for the night.
So you removed all the barriers that classical training would have put in front of people participating and expressing themselves. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I do. Yeah, I feel that it's been wonderful to have that opportunity to help others have what I didn't have.
Yeah, a voice.
Yes, and you know, we have no idea what's going on for each other, do we, or for people, and what they're feeling in their, what's going on in their lives. You know, for some people, I know, I was talking to somebody here who said there isn't in hospitality a day that goes by when she doesn't have something said to her that could be racist in some form. So every day she has something, and I kind of think I want to keep counteracting that with people and working with people, empowering people to have that resilience to be able to deal with it, rather than how I was, to be really silent and not say anything.
Absolutely. And in the 21st century, if there's one thing we do know, it's how much further we have to go in terms of shifting that norm about casual racist comments, casual sexist comments, classist comments and opinions. We've just got so much more further to go. And so the whole speaking out and using singing as a way of encouraging people to use their voices is just fantastic. And so it's one of those things that unless you're a person who experiences those negative comments, it's really easy to presume all of that's on lock. It's a minimal problem. It's not really that pervasive anymore.
Yeah.
And have you come across it very much in your daily life here?
I suppose when I was working in one place, there would be some of the older, more colonial types coming in, and they wouldn't look at me, and they would maybe go and speak, ask to speak to somebody else, and then I would know straight away. I have been in Hokitika in a shop, and I have had 3 people arrive into the shop after me, and they've been served before me. So there are little things that still happen, and but I learned to actually say, "Excuse me, I'm here. These people arrived after me." I will say that now, whereas I wouldn't have been able to do it before.
Wonderful. And it's just such a shame that you still have to be your own advocate. However, you've found that inner fire or strength to be able to say, "I was next," as opposed to just the silent stand back. I was taught the silent stand back as well about, no, don't make a fuss, don't make a fuss, don't make a scene, which leads to the person who's disempowered to continue to be disempowered. And they seem like such little items, like waiting in a shop queue seems like such a minute item. It's when it's peppered throughout your entire daily, weekly, monthly experience of your own community isn't even welcoming of you being present.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the bit that gets lost on a lot of people is the microaggressions and the cumulative effect means that people of colour or people who don't look like the majority or act like the majority, they're having a really different life experience in the same community.
Yeah.
And there's not that level of insight often displayed about, actually, I think my community's fine. However, there are parts of my community that aren't experiencing this life as fine, even though they've had exactly the same, by rights, the same experience of the day. The microaggressions just erode a person's sense. Yeah. So I'm so happy to hear that you've made this massive investment of service into advocating for others and empowering others.
And I do often wonder, actually, because my latest project has been cultural conversations in the past couple of years, and I do often think, gosh, if my grandparents saw that now, what would they be saying, actually? I do think, gosh, what would they have to say about that?
Wow.
And in a way, it's made me stronger. Yeah, it's made me do the work that I do because of what happened. So in a way, I thank them.
Absolutely. Did you ever feel a sense of resentment when you made the realisation that you were treated less in some ways?
Yeah, I would feel angry. I definitely felt angry with them. But then, thinking back, I wanted to change their mind. But I also knew it was pretty impossible too. So I needed to change that anger and, but I do think there is also a place I've often thought, I don't know if I agree with that person. I must get to know them better rather than write them off. To think, oh, you've come out with something quite racist there. I actually need to get to know you better. And I have made friends and had conversations and got them to think, I think you're right. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Calling out in a loving way.
Because it's often the people that we're connected to that we will have the most influence over, not changing minds, but opening conversation spaces. And as you say, being curious about, I wonder why they think like that, and doing that curiosity and unpack is a lot more meaningful because it maintains the connection, right?
Yes.
As opposed to writing someone off when they say something really off that you are surprised to hear, or that's transphobic or homophobic or any of the biases that disempower people. I'm so glad we've had this time to chat.
Yeah, because when I've seen you before, I've thought I'd love to sit and talk with you. So I'm really glad that we've had the opportunity.
Me koe hoki. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we're going to catch up for another cup of tea at some point.
Love to.